Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 30th, 2013 North Idaho College Board of Trustees meeting. Would you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we have a verification of the quorum, and it looks like everybody's in attendance, so we have a quorum. I don't know that any guests have registered, so we'll move on to the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, is there a motion with regard to them?
Let's see, yes, I have it here.
Is there a question with regard to the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one has signed up for a public comment, so we'll move on to one of the most enjoyable aspects of these entire meetings, and that's celebrating success. And we have Jasnik, Terry Jones. Terry.
Good evening. For those of you I've not met, my name is Terry Jones. I think most of us have met at one point in time or not. And I just want to give you a little idea of the event that we've got coming on next week. Jasnik is a festival that, let's see if I can do this fancy thing here. This is weird, you know, and when there's nobody behind me where I can tell them, you know, just wave my hands is what I'm used to doing, so a little different. We started the festival in the early 90s as a way of linking out to the K-12 schools. Most of the local guys had been down to the Hampton Festival and felt like the educational part of that festival was kind of dwindling, and so we started this festival with, I don't know, 4 or 5 groups, a half a day. The students come in, they perform 4 or 5 pieces, and then within that hour, then they get worked with 3 clinicians. This festival actually happens next week. I think we've got 28 groups coming in over 3 days. Junior highs, high schools, vocal groups, instrumental groups, and looking forward to that. Again, they're hour time slots, and it's really an interesting format. You know, a lot of the musicians as well as athletes, all they do is compete. And this festival, we don't give any scores. It's basically just for them to come and become better musicians. So that's kind of the one part of what this is about, is this thing that we do with students. Again, a lot of the local groups come in. We've got quite a few groups from Spokane that come over and work with our clinicians. This year, as it has been for quite some time, our clinicians are Dan Buckfitch is the professor from the University of Idaho, just elected as the university professor for the whole state. Remarkable person. Very intriguing, has written lots of compositions, is probably world known for his compositions, wonderful player. Then we also have their trombone instructor from the University of Idaho, his name's Alan Gimberling, comes up. And then his brother, who's the high school music director at Lewiston, Gary Gimberling. And then they work with the kids during the day. So that's one part of the festival. Then on Tuesday night, those 3 gentlemen join the jazz ensemble, and we put on a concert. The first part of the concert is our jazz choir, one of Max Mendez's groups, and then the jazz band plays with these 3 gentlemen. And we've been fortunate over the last maybe 6, 8, 10 years maybe. ASNIC has chosen to support that concert. So I'm able to help those guys and reward them for their wonderful playing and coming up here. And ASNIC has been really great about supporting us with that. So that's the evening concert. And I just want to share with you, I apologize for that to be a little hard to read. You know, again, I chose to be a band director so I wouldn't have to use words. So I've just got a couple of testimonies, and I can leave this with you, or I'll get them to you if you'd rather read them. The first one comes from Tim Sanford, a longtime director at Lake City High School. He's brought his group since the beginning, and just how he talks about what educational experience this is. And then if we, just to make sure that I get everybody in town, Jim Phillips is the band director at Coeur d'Alene High School. He's also brought his groups over for a long time. And again, the feedback they get, three clinicians do such a wonderful job of working with those guys. And it's interesting to me, again, I'll brag up Dan a little bit. Here's a guy who last year conducted a band that the National Music Educators put together, made up of students all across the country, and yet he'll come and work with the kids from Kellogg who really don't know what jazz is, and Dan works just as hard with them as he does some of the, we've got some groups in Spokane, and our local high school groups here are real proficient at that. Also, Doug Wood has been the director at Canfield for a long time. A little testimony from him about how he working with the middle school kids and so forth. I want to move on quickly. I don't want to keep you too long. This is a little testimony from Jeannie Emerson. Jeannie and her husband have been coming to the Jazz Festival for a long time. And part of what the music department does is, we do educational things, but we really have this role into the community where we reach the community and try to provide great entertainment for them. And this is one of those things. And Jeannie was agreeable to write a little blurb for me here about the Jazz Concert in itself and what it means to the community. And I know Max and I share the same vision for the music department and how we reach out to the community. We don't charge for concerts because we think that this is part of their tax money at work. And our groups are somewhat unique from a lot of colleges. Our groups are student and community groups. And it's just a wonderful dynamic. Let me fly ahead a slide. David Cooper is now retired, but was a construction manager. In fact, I believe he was the manager for this building when they remodeled the building. Dave's played in California, came up here, and is a remarkable player. And one of the things that I like and Max and I like about our community groups is I've got Dave Cooper sitting in the trumpet section with a couple other guys who have played for 30 years and an enrolled high school student sitting next to him. And because of our ability to use community people, we've got this great mentorship going on. We talk about mentorships in a lot of our other programs, and we do it a lot in the music department. Guys are sitting, we got our college kids sitting with these wonderful professional musicians. And I was talking with Max, and he pointed out, if we were to pay these guys to come in and mentor our students, we would be out of fortune. Dave's played for 35 years. He's got, as he says in his little note, has got a band that he plays with in town and a combo they play all the time. And so the music department does that kind of both ways, and as well as reaching into the high schools. This is just one of the 3 events that the music department does over the course of the year. I also put on an event in the fall where we invite a bunch of middle school bands to come in for a couple of big mass band concerts. Actually, I think your son might have done that, Todd. I think when we were at the charter, I think he came down for that. And then we also sponsor or host the district instrumental groups in the spring. So that's all of the orchestras and bands, middle school and high school in the 5 northern counties come on campus. Just a couple of thank yous. I'd be remiss if I didn't. We do this in conjunction with the auditorium staff. Justin and his people do a fantastic job about making this work. This is on Monday. We'll be in the auditorium at 8. We've got a dress rehearsal Monday night. We'll be lucky to be out of there by 10. They work hard. They do a great job. And I just, it's nice to be here this early because I'd like to invite you to come. I can almost guarantee you're going to have a good time. I just think that the performers, although they may not be names that you would recognize, again, Dan Buckvich, Gary Kimberly, and the director from Lewiston, is as good a singer as you'll ever see. I just think he's a marvelous entertainer. We have a great time. In fact, if you want to see how last year's concert ended, it's on YouTube. It's called Buckvich Triangles, and it's hilarious. So anyhow, that's just a quick overview of what we do for this particular festival. Again, I want to publicly thank ASNIC. They've been great supporters of ours. Allows us to keep the price of this down. This is by far the cheapest festival that these guys go to. Other than a little bit of auditorium staff and the lights in the auditorium, the festival supports itself. It doesn't cost us any college money to do that. Occasionally, if this might be one of those years when I fill the festival, that I'm also able to kick back some money into the college to cover some of the staffing costs in the auditorium. So it's a win-win. I know the school budgets are really tight, and so I try to keep that money as low as I can. And again, the ASNC money certainly helps us do that. This year we'll probably have, again, 27 bands, and it's probably going to be upwards close to 1,000 students in those 3 days.
Great.
Great. Terry, thank you very much. Any questions?
Do come and join us. It's really a good time.
I kind of thought you were going to give us a little sample here before you
Oh,
left.
this is, on that note,
There's an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Todd.
Well, I was going to say now, will you be conducting, we have the reception that I guess we're going to be up at next week, and then will we see you conducting that evening?
Well, actually what you'll see is this. That's about all I do. My job in this case is just snapping my fingers and, grades are great and hopefully. Although, the other interesting thing about this is that, Buckfitch in particular, Dan believes in jazz in the sense of spontaneity. And so, in fact, if you look at the Buckfitch Triangle thing, I never know that's coming. In fact, Justin Van Eaton and I said, if we could prepare for that little, they always do something crazy. If we could prepare for that ahead of time, I could help them out. And I just went, good luck with that. The Kimberlings and Buckfitch are guys I went to Montana State with as undergraduates. So we've known each other for a long time, which is also fun. But it borders on the craziness. I mean, one year we had a snow machine, full ski goggles, and Buckfitch was playing solos on ladders and stuff. So it's pretty crazy.
great.
Thanks again, Terry. Any other questions? Thank you. Next, we can welcome our new president of ASNC, Christopher Dean. Christopher, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Dunlap, Chairman, trustees, and guests. Thank you for making time for ASNC tonight. Again, my name is Christopher Dean, and I have taken over the position of president at ASNC. Our previous president, Julie Salinas, stepped down due to personal reasons. We are currently hiring new senators to fill all of our open positions and trying to push forward and continue with all of our projects and goals. We had planned previously to present a report on the rec center proposal to you, but due to the recent changes in the leadership, we decided to push that back. The rec center is still one of our main focuses and one of our main pushes, and we still are really excited to present that to you later in March. One of our senators, Duncan Menzies, has been pursuing the project to bring more art into the Student Union building. And through a collaboration of students, faculty, and staff, they have selected an artist that incorporates North Idaho College's mission, vision, and values. This is all in one piece that is due to be installed mid-March, and we're really excited about that. On your desk in front of you is a calendar that was put together by Heather Butler with collaboration with ASNC, and it has been distributed to all of our students. That it goes over all of our major dates and events, and it's really well put together. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go down to Boise with Mr. Stanley and Mr. Browning. It was an amazing experience and extremely productive to meet all of the legislators. I met with student body presidents from CWI and CSI, and they are just really great students and really on top of it. And we had really good discussions about the future of community colleges. They have really great ideas and just great plans. We decided to draft a charter to unite the 3 college governments and to push future boards to be in cooperation with those schools continually down the road when we leave office. This exchange will lead to better community colleges and better student governments and better opportunities. With that, thank you. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Christopher? Yes.
Just a comment. Chris, first of all, I'd like to really commend you for, all of ASNC, for, I guess, the way you dress at these board meetings. I think you take your role very seriously, and it's very impressive to look out in the audience and see that and see you. You look nice, and I like the marketing and the branding of your jacket. I like that a lot.
We got a lot of comments on that.
Yeah,
at the
that's
legislature.
great. So I'm glad you stepped up and filled a role that needed to be filled, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Ron?
Chris, we too got to go to the Capitol. For us that have gray hair, we've been a long time coming to get there, but two things I'd like to say is, number one is visiting our Capitol and getting a chance to see how our legislative system works is incredible.
It is.
But one of the things that you made a comment on was being able to go meet with the other two community colleges and to share ideas there. That's always, out of any organization I've ever been to, the presenters and the things that you learn there is second to the opportunity to share with your counterparts ideas, things that you can do, debating, discussing like that. So I admire you that you went there, and number two is that you recognize how important that was. So encourage you to keep that bond between these other two community colleges. They're great institutions.
There.
Todd?
I'm just happy to be back up north where it's warm.
Todd, did you have a question?
Well, I was going to offer Christopher an opportunity. I noticed they have kind of a busy night tomorrow night. If you want to make a plug for either of the events that they're going to be sponsoring.
Tomorrow night, the
Well, you've got the game day, you got the wrestlers going at it, and then I saw the speed dating, and I got to thinking what an interesting combination that would be if you could put the two together. But
that's a really interesting idea, but I think I'll leave that to student events. I can't go to speed dating anyway, so.
there'd be a young lady that wouldn't appreciate that.
No, sir.
So how do you guys do that? I guess real quick, if you got two events like that, you just split up your student senate and kind of half goes one way, half goes the other.
Pretty much. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other comments, or? Christopher, before you step down, let me join the congratulations to you and the other ASNIC representatives that went down to Boise. As Ron indicated, we followed you down there, and we heard great comments about the way you represented NIC down there from the legislators that we talked to. And you were a credit to NIC and a credit to the board, and we want to thank all of you very much. That was nice to hear when you get down there what a great group of students we have from up here. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we get Gary Stark, Staff Assembly. Thank you, Gary.
Good evening, Chairman, Trustees, Dr. Dunlap, and Mark Lyons. Christopher, nice job. You did an excellent job. You were a little worried before you got up here, but awesome job. My report is on the Staff Assembly meeting from January 10th. Lita Burns was our guest, and she came in and talked to us and told her all these great stories. And the one part that I thought was great was she talked about how her family lives somewhere else. So, but her distance family is actually here at NIC, and we believed you. I mean, everything that you said and what you do around here, I mean, I am part of your family, so thank you very much. We had a couple reports. John Totten reported on the RIF policy. I talked about the board meeting. The top topics for updates was the Employee Day update from Aaron. It's February 19th. Kathy and I will be the MCs for that. I'm not sure what the VPs will be doing that day, but we'll be hopefully laughing at them too. Also, the employee giving campaign kickoff has started, and we are trying to bring that level up. We had a meeting today, and they talked about us being like a 59% number, and where do we want to be? And we definitely want to be 100%. So we were trying to come up with ideas of how can we get to that level. So Kathy and I are challenging each other, where I'm going to try to get staff at 100%, and she's going to try to get faculty at 100%. So I'm going to give her beads and her chocolate to start it off.
I accept.
All right. We're not sure what we're going to do yet. I think the loser will have to go to the other meeting, like if I have to go to faculty assembly meeting and hand out chocolates or something, I don't know. We'll figure that out. But we'll also report this during the Employee Day kickoff. So it's going to be fun. Definitely, we got to get to 100%. We are here for the students, and anything that we can do to get them there, I mean, that's why we work here, so let's get that done. The last thing I have is we had a shout out that came in afterwards, after the meeting had happened. So I'm just going to read it out here. It came from Heather Johnson, and she said, I wanted to give a shout out to Kim Browning in Auxiliary Services. Kim is fantastic to work with and consistently moves things around to accommodate group tours I am planning. She is quick, friendly, and goes above and beyond to help out not only schedule the rooms, vouchers, and contact individuals I forget to, but also accommodates my last-minute requests for random things. She does it all with a pleasant, friendly demeanor. I just really appreciate her and her patience in working with me and my random requests. So, good shout out for Kim Browning. So, that's my report. Take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Gary. We get Kathy O'Brien from Faculty Assembly to accept the challenge and make her report.
I just found out about this tonight, so when Gary came up and tried to arm wrestle me, I thought, what's going on here? I might do better at getting money from people than arm wrestling Gary. Chair Howard, board members, President Dunlap, Mr. Lyons, thank you for allowing me to report tonight. And I too was able to travel to Higher Education Week at the legislature, and I want to thank you for making me feel so much a part of the process. And I was able to spend some time with some of the board members, old and new, and President Dunlap and the Vice President. So that was a really nice experience for me, and I do think it makes a difference when we have different constituent groups and different perspectives at that level, and letting people know how the students are feeling, how, the perspective of the faculty as well as the board and administration. So again, thank you. It was a very valuable experience for me, and I hope that continues after my time as Faculty Assembly Chair is over. At the last meeting, we had Curly, the Veterans Advisor at our meeting to tell us what we can do to help our veterans. We have more and more veterans on campus, and I think it's really important that we know that those resources are there. So we appreciate Curly coming to the meeting. Mark Browning came and talked to us about the economic impact studies. That's very interesting, and I think that as faculty members, we can carry that word out to the community. So I think that's a really important piece. And then Pam Noah came from the foundation and talked to us about the giving campaign. So now I know I have to do a really good job of getting all my faculty to give. At our next meeting, we're really excited to host Selena Gomez from Complete College, Idaho, from the state. And we are going to devote our entire meeting to Selena, and Leda Burns will be joining us at that meeting. So really excited to hear about Complete College, Idaho, and what faculty can do to help along with that process. The next meeting in February, I have been invited to attend the Northwest Council for Computer Education in Portland, Oregon. And because of some of the partnerships and collaboration with that organization, they're supporting my registration fee. So I'm going to Portland. That's an incredible conference, one of the best I've ever been to before. And so I will find somebody else to stand up here and talk to you. If I have to bribe them with chocolate, I will next time. And that is my report. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions? Judy?
Kathy, just wanted to comment, as a board member being in Boise, it was good to have you there. That helped both, I think, our connection and also for the legislators to understand that we represent lots of folk. For point of clarification, how were you funded to get to Boise?
Thank you for asking. We Faculty Assembly has a small budget every year of $750, and that was the money that was used to fund me. So it was funded by the Faculty Assembly budget.
Which I think is also another testimony, because I asked you that when we were in Boise.
Right.
How do you afford to get here, and how are we doing this? And it was another reminder to me as a board member that the faculty is just as involved in this as we are. And that was the magic, I think, of being in Boise for our board to see that the whole basis of this is for the students who were there. 2 days later comes faculty and board. And I, as you've heard me say many times, a firm believer in, particularly from Northern Idaho College, that we need to be in Boise to be visible. because we do sometimes get a little farther off the chart than sometimes happens that we would like. And so thanks for your time to do that. That was a good experience, as you identified and as we as a board did. We missed you, Christy, but we crusaded onward anyway.
Good.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Kathy. Next, we have John Totten from the Senate. John?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, President Dunlap, and everyone else here. We've been busy in College Senate. I want to start out by thanking you, Chairman Howard, for coming to our meeting last month. I think that was a great step forward in clarifying what was going on, and just a great gesture from the board to let us know that you're involved and that you're willing to step in and be part of the process. And so thank you for coming, and I think that was very valuable. And we eagerly await your input in regards to the reduction in force policy, as it's still very much on our minds. In the meantime, we've been very involved with an analysis of the committee structure at North Idaho College. And this was something that's been brought up from both assemblies and the administration, that it's time to take a look at the committee structure here at this institution. And President Dunlap has led the charge and has tasked everyone at all levels to be involved with this process. And I don't know that it concerns you all too terribly, but I would encourage you to, if you are interested, to take a look at the policy number 2.03.01, committees, function, structure, and membership. That's the current policy that the Senate is taking a look at. At the same time, the administration has been tasked with the analysis of the current structure and the committees that they're involved with. Also, we've got both assemblies collecting feedback from their groups. The faculty and the staff are involved, and so they're sharing their experiences in regards to being members and chairs of these committees over time. And we're trying to gather as much information as we can. We're going to take a good look at the structure. I think there are committees that have been on campus for a long time that may not necessarily need to be here anymore. A lot has changed, and I think that this is a very, very worthwhile project, because as a member of several committees, I want to spend my time making a difference, and it means a lot to all of us here at NIC to be part of this shared governance process. And so we're taking a look at it, a very thorough look, and it's happening at all levels, which really, again, is a testament to our dedication to shared governance here at North Idaho College. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments for John? John, before you sit down, let me mention, I thank you for having me and inviting me to your meeting, and having exchanged thank yous and that sort of thing. Let me tell you that I think it's very productive, quite frankly. I think it's productive for members of our board to understand how the community college works within its structures that we don't get a chance to see. So please do not hesitate to invite us to a meeting if you think there's something that's appropriate that you want us to be able to comment on, because not only hopefully will you get information from us, but we will get information from you. So it's a two-way street. We learn from those experiences too. So please don't hesitate to let us know if you feel that you want us to attend some meetings. That goes for all of the committee structures. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Next, the President's report. President Joe Dunlap.
So glad you got the memo and coordinated with our
Mr. Chair and trustees and members of the NIC community, good evening. I've got a number of items to address and a number of folks that I want to recognize tonight. First of all, though, you may recall that over the weekend there were a couple letters in the newspaper regarding digging and hunting for artifacts near and around the NIC campus and on the beach. And I fully expected Monday morning to come and find potholes dug all over the campus and was relieved when I didn't see that. However, because of that level of interest and the romanticization of looking for those artifacts. And since we are an educational institution, it's been suggested that maybe we, in conjunction with the city, in conjunction with the tribe and the state historical office, put together a symposium for members of the community so they can come and learn about the laws surrounding looking for artifacts and how to deal with those and document those. And so Mark Browning is going to coordinate that effort, and he will get word out to the public, and we'll put that symposium on and provide that educational service to the community. Our athletic teams are doing very well. Our women's basketball team is rated number 2 in the nation. They are 23-1. The men's basketball team is rated 10th in the nation. And this weekend, on Saturday, they are playing our arch rival, College of Southern Idaho. And so I would encourage you to attend. The women's game starts at 3 and the men's game begins at 5. And tomorrow night, our wrestling team, which is ranked number 1 in the nation, will be wrestling Simon Fraser University at 7:30 tomorrow evening. There's a couple people I would like to recognize. One is Gail LaFair, and Gail LaFair is our Assistant Director in Career Services, and she has been named the 2013 Counselor of the Year for the state of Idaho by the Idaho Counseling Association. She was presented that award at the Coeur d'Alene Resort this past Saturday, January 26th, at the Idaho Counseling Association conference that was held there. And so congratulations to Gail. It's quite an honor, and we certainly appreciate her efforts. You as trustees have been delivered a copy of our accreditation report that will go to the Northwest Commission and our accrediting team that will be here in March. And I want to recognize Karen Ruppel for her incredible effort in pulling that together. And Karen, raise your hand so people know who you are. And Ann Lewis has been instrumental in gathering data and assisting. Ann, raise your hand. And so we certainly appreciate all those efforts, because that is a major initiative for us. On February 9th, which is a Saturday, we will be hosting a FAFSA completion day. And FAFSA is the Federal Financial Aid Form, and it is open to the public, all high school students in the area, and they can come to Molstead Library between 10 and 2 on February 9th and receive assistance in filling out that financial aid application that will get young individuals one step closer to attending college. One of the missing components that this college has or has had is an international program, and that is recruiting and serving international students that would increase the diversity of the college. And so we've talked about that for some time, and Graydon Stanley has met with the Spokane College of ESL, and that is a company that is owned by the Canadian College of ESL and has been in Spokane for a number of years, about 5 years. And that company has graduated over 30,000 international students from 50 different countries. And so Graydon has made some strides with the director of that program, and we are looking at affiliating with that Spokane College of ESL. And they take care of doing the recruitment of those international students, providing them the English training, and then assisting them in placing them at colleges and universities where they may want to attend. And so I think that is the beginnings of a foundation for an international program, and Graydon and I are going to go meet with the director of that program next week for a final meeting before we finalize that relationship. The NIC Foundation, as mentioned, will launch an NIC giving campaign Friday, February 1st, and the goal is 100% participation. Last year, the college set a record by having 59% of employees participate in that program. And so the employees have been very gracious, and we are going to, again, try and better that record from last year. Also, the foundation on March 16th is having a foundation dinner and a fundraiser out at the Hayden Country Club. And it includes dinner, fine dining, and wine pairing. And it's limited to 104 seats. And so after all of you sign up, there will be 99 seats left. And we appreciate your participation in that. And the dinner will highlight NIC culinary arts students as well as our music programs. And the funds that are raised generally go for scholarships. In terms of our faculty and staff being gracious, today we had a blood drive on campus, and the goal was to draw 35 pints. And when I checked in this afternoon, they were already up to 52 pints. And so I appreciate the support of the faculty and staff in that very worthy endeavor. And I think we should encourage the trustees to give blood as well.
We do all the time.
Yes, you do. I know, Trustee Meyer. A couple months ago, there was an interest by an organization called McCall College to affiliate with us and ask us to extend our accreditation to them so that they could try and create a standalone college, much in the same fashion that CWI has lended their accreditation to the creation of CSI has lended their accreditation to the start of CWI. And we met with them for quite some time and discussed that relationship or possibilities for that relationship. And I spoke with the president of that organization today and indicated to him that we were not willing to extend our accreditation to their organization for some very sound reasons. And I want to make sure that everyone understands those. First of all, it would mean that NIC must accept additional risk and oversight required by the Accreditation Commission. And we must then engage in a very, very comprehensive written agreement as outlined by the Northwest Commission on Accreditation, and it's called an A6 agreement. We also recognize, based on the experience of CWI and CSI, that there is an incredible additional workload that is incurred. And we are embarking on several expansion initiatives here on this campus that will require all of our full engagement. And in order to serve that organization in McCall would require additional staffing, and we're just not in a position to do that. In addition, there is concern that there may not be the population to develop a self-sustaining college. The population of McCall is about 2,500. And by example, Columbia Gorge Community College, which is located in the Dalles, has a population that it serves of about 13,500. They have been trying since 1977 to establish a standalone college and have been operating under the auspices of Portland Community College's accreditation, and in part because they could not demonstrate the fiscal viability to be a standalone organization. And so we have concerns whether there's a population that is sustainable for a standalone college in the McCall area. And that Columbia Gorge College, by the way, this year for the first time achieved candidacy status with the Northwest Commission. And then lastly, McCall College had expressed an interest in developing what they would call a destination college because it's in a area that's desirable by those that enjoy outdoor recreation. And so if you look at NIC as an example, we've been in existence since 1933, almost 80 years. And we reside in the center of a recreation destination with a very robust outdoor pursuits program. And we have not become a destination college in 80 years. Only 10.5% of our students come from out of state. And so for all of those reasons, we indicated we would not extend our accreditation. However, we did agree that we would continue to work on articulation. In other words, that students who attend in McCall through a regionally accredited institution could articulate with North Idaho College. And so the door is still open. There is still a relationship. But I wanted to close the loop with you with regard to that organization. We have been notified by the Coeur d'Alene tribe that on the 15th of February there will be a ceremony, and they will be donating a monetary amount to the college. I know Rael Anderson will be there, as well as probably Mark and others, and I believe Chairman Howard will be there as well. Unfortunately, I will be at another engagement and can't attend as much as I would like to. Go down to Plummer and visit with Chairman Allen. I've got a couple reports that I've asked the staff to follow up on. I've asked Ron Dorn to articulate where we are with the annexation of the beach and the city. And so that's one of those items that's been out there, but I think it's time for an update. So Ron, can you update us on that?
Board members, been working on this almost since I've been here. Really hope I can complete it before I'm finished. But the city is ready at this point in time to, is willing to annex the beach into the city. And we looked at this for a number of reasons. One of them being security, safety and security. As you well know now, the Dyke Road belongs to the city, and they do parking enforcement. The beach is ours, is in the county. And so the reaction time for law enforcement, for security, to get to that beach is pretty lengthy when the call is made. And we have had some incidences there, mostly later at night, mostly involving alcohol. That is can be detrimental to our students and others using that area. So we think for us, the need to say, okay, the college, the Dyke Road, and the beach are in the city. The city obviously provides enforcement where our security don't. To get that coordinated, instead of having two pieces, a piece of land that's ours, that's in the city, the Dyke Road that belongs to the city, and then the beach that's still in the county zoning. The other part of that is obviously the levy. And with the renewed interest in making sure that we get that certified so FEMA doesn't pull the insurance plug on those of us that live on this side of the dike, we've worked pretty closely with both the city and the county, Gary has, on projects that we've done down there to get permits to do the necessary work. But it would be, I think, much cleaner for us if we just had to deal with one entity, which would be the city, instead of both the city and the county, anytime that we want to do anything on the beach. And you know we have a presence there with our outdoor pursuits program, and it had real good cooperation with the city in developing that, that parcel. The other part is the zoning. The beach is currently zoned industrial, and that limits the uses. Coming into the city and talk to them, we would be able to expand the uses of that, the beach, and to hold weddings and the boat launch, the boat, okay, you got it, the bulkhead area, that's, and to hold other events on the beach. So we've really worked, spent a long time on this, and this can happen, but we wanted to bring this to the board and see if there's any issue with us going ahead. The city is ready to do this if we give them the okay to annex this into the city.
Thank you, Ron. Now,
Do we have some questions? Judy?
sure.
Obviously, the first one is any economic consequence, impact?
No.
That's the right answer, thank you.
There will be no annexation fee.
Christie?
Mr. Chair, part of the questions, I think we just need some questions answered. What, city ordinances versus county ordinances, and how does that impact what we decide to do with the beach in the future, as far as red tape? And I'm a big fan of the city, everybody ought to know that, but I want to understand the difference between the ordinances and how that would hamstring the college, possibly, maybe not. And then I just have to clarify real quick one of your statements about security and police response. Certainly, I want to be clear that local law enforcement responds immediately, and it doesn't matter. You won't be waiting for the county. The city will be there. Only time that comes into play is when an actual report is taken, but that immediate response will be done by the city regardless. So I think I would like to, certainly we need to do something because this is going to come up for discussion with the city, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about the difference between the ordinances and how that impacts us.
I think, Gary, could you help clarify the ordinance issue for me, please?
Well, I can tell you when we did the boathouse down there, the biggest issue there was the high water level mark, and the county high level mark was actually 10 feet?
Significantly.
I think it was 10 feet lower than what the city's was. So we had to go in there and get a variance for that. I can go right to the monument signs also when you're dealing with the county and the city. The county has a totally different rule. And the sign that we're putting in the city meets the code and the design that we want, where the county doesn't. So I just know down there on the beach, everything that we worked with and working side by side with Gordon Dobler is spot on. Everything that we're doing, trying to make sure that we meet the levy requirements when they're going to go through that recertification, third-party recertification. The city, we're working side by side with them all the time. And when we went to the county to go through those variances, the county says, why is this in the city? I mean, why isn't this in the city limits? And that's where this whole process started, so.
Any other questions, Judy?
As we work on this annexation, there's some written and legal discussion we have to have our attorney help make happen?
Mark has worked with us on this and will continue to work with us on this, Judy.
Does it look like it's very complicated?
No, but
I don't think we have a written annexation agreement proposal from the city yet. So we'll
But they are
wait until we
ready.
get that.
They are ready to give that to us.
Good.
Any other
Okay.
questions or comments? One other one, maybe along the line that Christie asked, and only because I tangentially looked into this issue on the signs. There are sometimes significant differences between the zoning requirements and codes between the city and the county is changing theirs now. It probably would be of some value to do an assessment about whether we're going to gain or lose on that battle. The fact that we've had a couple of anecdotal experiences that it goes one way or the other, I'm not sure answers the question that she raised, which was overall, is it better for us to be in the city or is it better for us to be in the county? And if you're comfortable with having reviewed a wider range of the city ordinances versus the county ordinances, then I'd like to hear about that. But if not, then maybe we could hear about that at some other time.
I haven't gone through everything. I mean, it seems like every project that we work on, something else pops up. I mean, I can spend some time on that for sure, but everything that I've come across so far has been way better dealing with the city, so.
And I guess at least from my own personal perspective, I'm looking for some recommendation from somebody who's looked at it as to which is best for the college. And whenever you feel like you're comfortable doing that, I'd like to hear that. Thank you.
Mark, I know you were looking also at that dike issue and where we are, and I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Thank you, President, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Council Lyons. The latest is about where it's been over the last 90 days. The city and the college, we are partnering to try to find an independent third-party certifier for the dike so that we can maintain that certification. We've provided some documentation to the Corps of Engineers out of Walla Walla. They wanted some general college information, enrollment, head count, number of years that we've been here, some just very general descriptions that they would put in their report, but they are not responding at this point until they have their report done. They don't anticipate that to be done for another 6 months. So that's the latest where we're at.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions of Mark?
Just
Yes, Judy?
Do you know of any upcoming items that we need to do other than just wait for the report? Are we going to have some mitigation issues coming along?
Mr. Chair and Trustee Meyer, no issues that we know of, but I am working with Sid Smith in Senator Rish's office to try to work around the backside of this, if you will, through Washington, D.C. I probably shouldn't say backside and Washington, D.C. together, but let me rephrase that. We're working with our federal delegation to try to work on the Corps from that end as well. The solution that they had previously proposed, which was to remove trees, simply is not a solution.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mark, I have one, and that is, if you could find out if there are any deadlines that we're going to be facing. I mean, it would be nice to know if, you know, the Corps is going to be requiring something absent some other resolution in a certain time, or some other authoritative entity is going to be requiring us to do something, if there's a time frame that we're looking at.
Chairman Howard, my last correspondence with the folks out of Walla Walla was that it was on their to-do list, but they didn't have a firm deadline yet, and I'd like to get that confirmed from a second source. I think it's always good to have two sources.
Thank you.
Also, I'd like to call on Graydon Stanley to talk about some changes in how we process students and work with students in the financial aid arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, President Dunlap, and other guests. This fall, the president tasked us with one of the issues, which was the amount of debt that students on our campus and across the nation are certainly incurring as they're pursuing higher education. So we looked at the issues on our campus, and not unlike on all other campuses, you would know, first of all, students are incurring too much debt by the time they graduate. The amount that they owe back is difficult for them to repay once they have their degree. Secondly, there's an issue of students coming to campus and defaulting on some of their loans when they apply for loans. First of all, they may not necessarily need them, and our financial aid process has been set up nationally in such a way that students, a need is determined by the federal government. There are Pell Grants, there's loans, and there's work study that all goes toward filling that need. Students sometimes, even though they may not need all of that money, of course, if it's offered to them, most of them are willing to take that. If they don't complete the entire semester satisfactorily, or if they do complete the semester and don't get the grades that are required to keep it, they're unable to either come back to school, and oftentimes they'll go into default, have to pay that money back, can't return to college anyplace until they're out of default. So a number of issues related to that. As a result, we put together a student debt task force here on campus that had a great cross-section of representatives from the instructional side. Dr. Burns has sat on that committee. I'm on that committee, along with personnel from the Resource Management Office. Sarah Garcia and others from their office are on that. And then we have student representation. Duncan, who you heard mentioned earlier tonight from ASNIC, sits on that committee as well. Financial aid is certainly well represented by Joe Becken, the director, and Stephanie House, the assistant. So it's been a great cross-section, and there's been many good ideas that have come from that. Most recently, those ideas were presented to the President's Cabinet, and those were accepted. And I know some of you heard about those when we were down at the legislature. Those ideas are in this order. First of all, that financial aid be given out incrementally instead of what all institutions have done in the past, is to not award all the money at the very first of the semester, but award that we're required to. Pell Grants, for example, are an entitlement, and you don't have a choice but to give students all that money at the front of the semester. But loan programs, you're not required to do that, and you can put other stipulations on it. So what we're going to be doing beginning with next fall semester is awarding 50% of that at the beginning of the semester, and then at midterm we'll be checking their progress in classes. If students are completing at least 6 or more credits satisfactorily, they'll be entitled to the rest of their award, the additional 50%. Also, there are 2 different loan programs, one subsidized and one unsubsidized. Unsubsidized loans we've awarded to students because it was something they were eligible for even if they didn't ask. We have the choice to go ahead and not do that. And in fact, that's what we're going to do now, is that if students want to receive an unsubsidized loan, they'll have to go through an additional request. They'll have to come back. Instead of us saying you're entitled to all this, you can get all of this money, they'll have to come back and make an additional request for an unsubsidized loan. Part of that requirement from our end that we're adding is that they do some financial literacy work, that they begin to understand that they're going to have to pay this money back, that they develop a budget to show that they have some need to gather that in the first place. So instead of just getting money, not knowing that they don't need it, they'll get that information. So by going through those couple processes, we're assuming that some students will no longer take that unsubsidized loan, and we'll reduce the amount of debt that they're incurring, and we'll make sure that students are really needing the money that they might receive from financial aid. As a result of rolling this out, I should let you know that we received, after the announcement at the legislature, we received a number of calls from other financial aid institutions, other colleges around the state, who first of all asked if we could really do that. And in fact, I assured them that we could. Joe Becken and his staff in the financial aid office did all the research with the U.S. Department of Education and their colleagues and found out that in fact we absolutely can do that. Secondly, Joe told me in a conversation today, and Joe's here representing his department tonight, and I appreciate the good work that they've done, that the U.S. Department of Education in fact applauded them for those aggressive efforts toward addressing student indebtedness on our campus. So I'm very proud of the work the committee has done, and particularly proud of the work that the financial aid office has done.
Good. Any questions, Graydon?
Well,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Graydon, where were you in the 80s? Because I will tell you, students, I took every dime that they said I could have, because just like you said, they'll just give you whatever you're willing to take, and you'll take it all. And it was tough paying it back, and so what a wonderful program. I learned the hard way, and so I am just so thrilled to hear about this for our students. That is great. Good work.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Graydon, thank you.
Mr. Chair, one last item I want to mention. Over the course of the next few months and becoming effective the 1st of July, we are moving from a monthly paycheck to a semi-monthly paycheck. And the first question would be, well, why are we doing that? Well, first of all, this is one of the only institutions that I've seen where we only pay our employees once a month. The other item is that when we have individuals who get hired on after the 1st of July, and let's take a faculty member, for example, and they don't begin teaching until August, the effective date of their contract, and then they have to wait another month to get paid, it can be almost 6 weeks or more before that individual receives a paycheck when they start working here. And that, I think, is a disservice to our employees, and I think there's a better way that we can do that. And so there will be a transition that takes place. That the effective date of implementation will be the 1st of July. It also will require us to become more reliant on automated systems and less reliant on manual systems. And so there's a cultural shift that's taking place as well. And so maybe the greater gain out of this whole process of transitioning is the cultural shift to move towards more efficient systems. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions of the president? Ron?
Just not a question, but a comment. First of all, there's 5 board members here, and if they bring their spouses, we sold 10 tickets, so I'd use that extra ×2 to get your extra tickets. But just
thank you, Mr. Nielsen. I was not very good in math in school.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
But the highlight of my trip going to Boise last week was being able to see the interaction between you and the other 2 college presidents. And I think Jared Beck said he was there. He's been there for 92 years or whatever it was, some number that was just unbelievable. And his reputation walking the halls of the Capitol building and walking in and out of the House and the Senate floor and dealing with the State Board of Education is unbelievable, the relationship that he's built. And to see him and Bert from CWI put their arms around you and take you in, and you guys have committed to speak as one voice. And I think we're stronger as 3 community colleges fighting for the students than we are individually. And I just want to tell you, it was a highlight of my trip to see this ongoing relationship, the joking and sparring that you had, and what they have already, the admiration they have for you as a college president. So I just want to say
thank you, Mr. Nielsen. That's very kind to say. But on the other hand, and I think it's important that our colleagues understand this, that while we were down there, there was a joint trustee meeting between CSI, CWI, and NIC trustees. And the purpose of that was so that we could speak with one voice to the legislature. And out of that, there came some extremely important initiatives that relates to the out-of-district tax question. And so by the same token, I mean, I appreciate the fact that the trustees are working together and that we're able to speak with one voice. And, thank you and all the trustees for helping make that happen.
Judy, did you have something?
It sounds like repeat, because yes, that's certainly been a crusade I've had, and I think, again, you were joining with the other presidents, and we board members joining, students were there. I just think that makes us a more effective reckoning of a service to students, that sometimes 4-year schools get more attention, and community colleges are growing faster, and I think doing a great job, and it's just fun to be part of a team that's doing that. So thanks for your leadership.
Any other comments or questions?
And
yes, Ron?
And one of the things that I learned on that trip was that professional technical education and community colleges have, in some cases, taken a back seat to what's going on in the educational institution. But never did we go into any meeting out of the 10 that we went to talking about at JFAC as far as appropriation of funds with the House and the Senate leadership. Always it was the continued support of the community college system, and a matter of fact, of an additional support and recognition needed to be able to support these institutions, how important they are. So it was very happy to see the change from being it's all 4 years to the 2 years. So.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Thank Mark, for making the arrangements.
Thank you very much, President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chauffeur.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes.
One more on your way by.
I'm sorry, it's too late, Judy.
No. Thank you. And I think I wanted to come back to the fact that the reason you were there was, in fact, you were presenting to JFAC, Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, looking for recognition of community colleges and funding for us. And I was thinking that presentation, I believe, was streamed live at the time you did the presentation, so the faculty here could be watching that. And is it not then available? I think it's archived on public television, so that folks who are watching the television, our board meeting, can also go see your presentation. Because it's hard when we go off to Boise and you wonder what we all do. The community here and the citizens of this area have a chance to see your presentation. Am I correct in my description of that? Through YouTube, I think it's through Idaho Public Television, is it not? Yep, and I'll bet we could probably get that on our website for an address for folks to be able to see how hard you're working in Boise.
Mr.
Mark can
Chairman.
help me with that.
Any other questions or comments?
Mark had to answer
Oh,
that.
yes, Mark.
Mr. Chairman and Trustee Meyer, it's already there. It's on our website.
Oh, as usual. Wonderful to be so far behind. Thank you, Mark.
Any other
And
comments or
Mark,
questions?
besides being so efficient at that, you were an excellent cab driver. Thank you for your services. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Our next item of business is the old business, and it's Ron Dorn on the NIC audit for the year ending June 30.
last year. Just counting that.
Board Chair, board members, before you have in tab 1 a request to accept the audit for fiscal year 11-12 on its third reading.
Mr. Chair,
Are there any, yes?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the audit for fiscal year 2011-2012.
Do we have a second?
Meyer, second that.
Is there any discussion? Hearing,
I'd
what,
like to ask
yes,
for a roll call on that.
all right. All in favor?
Wood, yes.
Meyer, yes.
Nilsson, yes?
Banducci abstain?
Okay, passes. So we accept the audit for 2002. Next business, there is no new business on the agenda for today. So the next item is the board chair report. We've already heard to some extent some of the things that we, as the board, have done since our last board meeting. The board held a trustee retreat in early January with the idea of reviewing policies and procedures involving the conduct of meetings and to review our roles. We met with the administration. We discussed goals for the upcoming year. Decided that as a board we wanted to see if we could find ways, methods to reach out to the community more. And we're going to try and schedule some public hearings or meetings in other geographic locations other than here in order to give other people in our service area an opportunity to interact with the board on a personal level. Then we attended Education Week, which has been discussed to some length, and I think everybody will agree that it is a great experience, not just because we get an opportunity to get down to Boise and meet some people, but we get to see one another and see the other colleges in an environment where, as Ron has already alluded to, there is this cooperative level between all of the community colleges that is readily apparent. When we had the JFAC meeting, which was the first meeting, the Joint Finance Committee meeting, there were individual presentations, and then one of the college presidents said, maybe for the Senate Education Committee, we ought to have a panel discussion. And so that's what the three presidents did. Rather than sitting up and giving independent comments about their colleges and what they needed, it was a panel discussion, and it was a very lively discussion with the senators and gave everybody an opportunity to inquire. And it was readily apparent when you listened to the dialogue how much cooperative effort was going on between the community colleges and how they did operate with a single voice, and how respected and appreciated that was by the legislature in terms of their doing their duties. And that same kind of the trustees had an opportunity to, we don't participate other than to be there as observers, but as observers we're able to then help understand a little bit better how we can interact with the legislature and how well our presidents and the presidents of the other colleges are communicating with the legislators. We had an opportunity to meet with Governor Otter and spent some time talking to him about the needs of the college, particularly the professional technical needs that we're going to be dealing with here in the upcoming months. We met also with the representatives of professional technical education, again talking about the needs of North Idaho College. And in addition, we met with the Albertsons Foundation. The Albertson Foundation is in a position to offer grants for different aspects of education, and we had some time to spend with them, conveying to them the needs of NIC with regard to all aspects of education, but particularly right now professional technical. In addition to that, we had a meeting held at the ICRIMP headquarters, which is the insurer, the state insurer and the insurer for NIC, and they offer an opportunity to give us a seminar from time to time on the aspects of ensuring a public institution, kind of policies and procedures they're looking at in order to help us conduct ourselves in a more liability-free environment. So that was very helpful. In addition to that, and following that, because it was a seminar that was given to all 3 community colleges simultaneously, almost the complete boards of each of the 3 community colleges, we had the opportunity to have a joint board meeting of all 3 community colleges. Now, I want to impress upon you the fact that there isn't another, I don't think, group of educational institutions in this state that does this. And when we do it for our purposes because it makes things better. We're able to operate better for NIC. But I can't tell you how much it's appreciated by the legislature, by other people that have dealings with us, to know that we're trying to cooperate and come up with mutual solutions to problems rather than having competition all the time about how to solve problems at the different institutions. And it's been very beneficial, as has already been commented on. And the fact that the students are engaging in that process, I know will reach a lot of ears, and people will be very appreciative of those efforts. So we are very appreciative of that. In addition to that, we have set up a joint meeting with the Coeur d'Alene City Council. We're going to have, it will be a public meeting where the Coeur d'Alene City Council and the North Idaho Board of Trustees will have a joint meeting. The reason for that is that as things go on, we have a lot of mutual interests. Sometimes we talk between one another using representatives, but when it comes to making policy, sometimes it's best to have the policymakers have an opportunity to talk to one another. The dike trees is a good example of an ongoing issue that there are going to have to be some policy decisions made along the way. And so for us to have a joint meeting with the city, we feel will be a productive effort. There are annexation issues that we've discussed here today, and they may be ongoing because when you look at the boundaries of the city of Coeur d'Alene and NIC, they're really quite irregular, and you wonder sometimes how they ever got that way. But there will be annexation issues that, again, we can talk jointly about. There is a strip of land that used to be occupied by the Burlington Northern Railway. It's been abandoned now. That particular parcel of property is now owned by the BLM. The BLM is in the process of transferring that property to the city of Coeur d'Alene with NIC's interests in mind. And so we also have mutual interests in trying to make sure that, for instance, the boundary between Hubbard and River now, which would bring NIC's property out and contiguous to Northwest Boulevard, that as these transfers take place, and it may take a matter of years, that NIC's interests are preserved with regard to any transfer of land. And it's a complicated process, really interesting from a historical perspective, but it's going to take a number of years to sort of undo the complexities there. We also have the ongoing issue with regard to the signs, which haven't been resolved yet, but that has a lot to do with not just planning and zoning, but it also has to do with who owns the land that they go on and whether there are easements to put it on and how long those easements are going to last. In addition to that, President Dunlap and I had the opportunity to get down and meet with Chief Allen down at the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Headquarters. And I want to tell you that one of the things that Chief Allen said to President Dunlap was to thank him for the attention that he had spent with regard to understanding the tribal interests in North Idaho College. During the course of our discussion, it was President Dunlap was mentioning, well, we have 200 of your students on our college, and President Allen was so impressed that he even knew how many students from the tribe were engaged with North Idaho College. And I can't tell you how important it is, I think, for us to build those relationships, and we all ought to be appreciative, I think, of President Dunlap's efforts in extending the efforts that we're trying to make in reaching out to the communities around us. You've heard about Sandpoint and what's going on up there. We're also looking at Bonners Ferry, and we're looking at the Silver Valley, but also south into the tribal area. So we had agreed and talked to Chief Allen about maybe having a public meeting down there He suggested it might be more beneficial for us to have a joint meeting with the tribal council, and so we're in the process of setting that up so that the Board of Trustees can have a joint meeting with the tribal council to explore mutual issues. We have received a report from RGU Consultants with regard to professional technical facilities and the issues that we have with regard to professional technical needs here on campus. That is being reviewed by the trustees. I anticipate that either in the February or the March meeting, they will probably have public hearings on it. But it's an extensive report, and the trustees have requested, and I believe are entitled to give it all due attention by having some time to review it, ask some questions, try and resolve issues before we have a public hearing, and we bring those issues out and maybe get some additional answers to what aren't in the report. Hopefully, we'll be able to move forward with some kind of response to the professional technical problems and programs that we have in the near future. I think that's all I can think of. In terms of my report, I would invite the trustees, as we move on to the remarks for the good of the order, to make comment with regard to anything that you think that is important that we should comment on to the public and to the NIC community. So, Christy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I certainly regret missing Education Week. I always enjoy that week, and I'm so glad that the other trustees could go. It's important we're there. I just couldn't get out of some prior commitments. One of those commitments was the Human Rights Gala, and I'd like to thank the NIC representatives that did attend. We very deeply appreciate that. I'd also like to say that while all of you were tired on Thursday night, Ron and I did go to the Post Falls Chamber event, and Ron was half of the show. He had to be there. He had to give away his crown. And it was really enjoyable. And I'd like to thank the NIC table that went. Lita was there, Graydon was there, Marie Price was there, Rael was there, Stacy Hudson was there. Who am I missing? Anybody? Was that everybody? And the food was wonderful. And it was a really fun evening watching those businesses be honored and individuals be honored for what they've done in their community. And I really hope we get to go back again next year. I hope they invite us. Ron, can you make that happen for us?
No problem.
Okay.
We'll move the table up a little closer to the front this time.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments for the good of the order? Judy?
Couple, as Christy, as you mentioned the Post Falls, I think it's fair to say that Mr. Chair, you on behalf of the board are working on not only meeting next with the city of Coeur d'Alene, but we would expect to meet with other cities and stay in touch with other constituents to continue our outreach to hear what our areas, primarily our Kootenai County, but not only that, what folks need and what we can help do. As you talk about professional technical, I want to highlight 3 articles I came across, and I know there are many, but at least for me, there was one in the Coeur d'Alene Press last week, January 24th, where it talked about recession, technology killing jobs, and the AP did a study of what's happening, and I think it's very thought-provoking, and I think it's available online. An extension was another article by out of Wired magazine, which is always a fun magazine to read anyway, called Better Than Human, Why Robots Will and Must Take Our Jobs. And it doesn't suggest they'll take them all, but it really stretches you on what kinds of things are ahead, which will be part of what I think we as a board and a community are looking at for how do we figure out what is the right combination of services for our students and local economic development. And then I think, President Dunlap, aren't you going to go take and is it pronounced MOOC classes, the MOOC?
That's correct. It stands for Massive Open Online courses. And so I have signed up for a chemistry course from MIT, and now I'm beginning to have buyer's remorse. But it starts on February 5th.
Oh my gosh.
And to follow up on that, Thomas Friedman, I find him a very thoughtful writer. He wrote Flat Earth and some other very thoughtful articles. In the New York Times, wrote an article, Revolution Hits the Universities, and it's referring to these programs. And you know, it always stretches you because I don't know how much of it is realistic, but at least he's suggesting access to academic information like powerful and possible through technology is really global. And we as a community college need to figure out how we can be cost effectively not just keeping up with, participating in and being a leader in delivering services to our students. So in case you don't have enough to read, those are 3 things that I thought were really thought-provoking. I hope you enjoyed. The last thing was to highlight to our board, especially with our new members and a time for us to be together, the trade association called ACCT, it's the Community College Trustees, has their national leadership conference in Seattle, Washington this fall. And thanks to Shannon, who highlighted the date for us, and I would do that now because at least I find our calendar is beginning to fill up. October 3rd through 5th. Geographically, it's close by, and it'll certainly give us a chance to interact not only with, I suspect, College of Western Idaho and College of Southern Idaho will be there, but also the other regional as well as national community colleges for how are they doing, what are they doing, and just tune us up on another level. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask that we keep reminding the board and begin to think about setting aside that time to be in Seattle.
Any other comments for the good of the order? Ron?
I'd like to take off from what Judy was saying about the skilled and trained workforce that, as we found out when we were in Boise, is that a lot of the growth that we're going to see in our part of the world, we have some major employers here, if it be Buck Knives, Kimball, Sunshine Minting, companies that a lot of people don't even know. Sunshine Minting manufactures mint coins for about 12 different countries, and that's their coin. And they're in the process of taking it from about 300 to 375 employees. So 75 people in a community of this size is pretty significant. For those that don't know, the highest multiplier of any job that you will ever get or attract a business into your community is manufacturing. For every 100 manufacturing jobs that are created, 415 residual jobs come from that. So as we look at where we stand within the state of Idaho and where we stand in the country, there's a movement right now in North Idaho that says that we want you. We want these jobs like Kimball. We want these jobs like Buck Knives because these are sustainable jobs that pay living wages, but more importantly, that they continue to support what could be viewed as a tourist destination or a high-tech destination, but it's a good foundation for this community. The emphasis that we keep hearing about professional technical education, there's many of your professional technical classes that have 5 to almost 10 times the amount of applicants per jobs available, or to enrollment available. We got to stop that, because those jobs, if we don't fill those, are going to go someplace else, and that we have to be very careful. And they're not dead-end jobs. Some of these jobs are great sustainable jobs that require high levels of skill, and it also positions the student that takes those high-level jobs to move in and continue their education, get their bachelor's or master's degree while working for a company that's willing to pay for your education. So this community, this part of the world has the cheapest utility rates in the country. We have some of the lowest workman's comp in the country. We are a right-to-work state. Productivity, quality of workforce, quality of life, that you're going to see tremendous efforts. The governor's launched a project called Project 60, which is very simply put is that right now the gross national revenue of the state of Idaho is around $51 billion. If we were able to grow it to 60, about a 20% increase, that we attract businesses, business pay more tax revenue than individuals or service industries do, that could instantly stabilize our economy in the state of Ohio, but more importantly, that extra funding would go to the continued education, because an educated workforce, an educated student is the future of our country. So I think that we're sitting in a best position in the world, I think, to take advantage of what's happening in some of these states that are running industry and manufacturing out of there. So just a comment.
Any other comment? Yes, Ron?
Kind of hard to follow that, Ron. We are a well-rounded college, though, supporting the academic, the professional technical education, and also the lives of the students, some of which is our athletics. We had the opportunity to visit with our athletic director, Al Williams, today, and heard briefly about the success of our athletic programs. And I guess as we're coming to a close, for anybody that's watching this or anybody in attendance, just a shout out to again, tomorrow night at 7:30 will be the Coach Whitcomb's wrestlers. It'll be their last home match against Simon Fraser. And then on Saturday, as it's been mentioned, we have the College of Southern Idaho coming to town. The girls and Coach Carlson will be going after it at 3 o'clock, and the men under Coach Fay will be going at it at 5. And I know they'd sure appreciate your support. CSI is our traditional foe, and I see a smile from someone we stole from CSI. So anyway, I'd like to encourage everybody to support those kids out there giving their best effort, and the coaches.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, I call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
That.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to say, I think we just hit a record. It was only an hour and a half for this.
That's all right.
meeting.
We can
Thank you.
adjust.
We're adjourned.
We can adjust.